This is the 5th annual campaign and Sage Publishing lecture. Particularly exciting that we've got Professor Louise Richardson, such an esteemed speaker tonight, as we have done for the last many years. And it's a moment to bring social science into sharp focus and to showcase exceptionally high quality social science.
Social science is very much focused upon issues of equality and economic inequality in particular. And there are many ways in which social science focuses upon, for example, what happens in the school and indeed what happens in education. Tonight's lecture by Louise Richardson is sure to shed light upon the way in which we think about these problems and how social scientists may come forward with particular skills and particular ways of trying to challenge these problems and address them for the future of public policy.
Well, I looked at the rise of populism and what we've learned by the work of social scientists in analysing the rise of populism. And in particular, I focused on the educational gap between those who supported populist movements and those who don't. I then looked at the regional, ethnic and income educational inequalities in this country and talked about what social sciences and universities might be able to do to address it.
The scale of the educational inequalities in this country is an issue of such import that we should be concentrating all the methods of our discipline in attempting an understanding of the scale of the problem, the causes of the problem, and identifying evidence-based policies that might serve to mitigate the problem.
Inequalities have long posed an ethical challenge to us, but increasingly they're posing a political and economic one too. If we have a population that is disenfranchised, that is uneducated, that feels removed from society, that believes that society is rigged against them, they're likely not to engage in the democratic process.
I think also it's very important that universities have an explicit commitment to public service. Universities do actually serve the public interest in a whole host of different ways. Being open and explicit about this is not to sell out, it's not a betrayal of the fundamental autonomy of a university, but it's a recognition that university is part of the wider community.
In short, I believe that universities should respond by standing our ground and doing what we do best, pushing at the frontiers of knowledge and educating the next generation. In doing so, however, we must be more engaged, more willing to persuade, and remain irrevocably true to our principles. We must be and be seen to be fair in our admissions procedures and transparent in our governance. We must do all we can to redress the deep educational inequalities in our country, in our society.
Well, Louise focused on kind of cultural and political trends. And for us at Resolution Foundation, we look at the economic underpinnings. So one of the things I drew attention to was just the evidence that for many people, their pay is no longer increasing, but is falling in real terms year after year. If that happens, you get a lot of angry, cross people. That younger people may not be voting so much, but when you look at the evidence we have as to how many of them are now renting rather than owner-occupiers, sadly, if you're renting, you're less likely to vote.
We are deeply fortunate in this country to have some of the best social scientists in the world. I believe it to be critical for the credibility of social science, and more important, for the stability of the country, that some of us turn our attention to addressing the deep inequalities in our society, to enhance public understanding of the underlying causes of these inequalities, and to suggest policies based on evidence that might serve to ameliorate them. We can no longer be satisfied with being guardians of knowledge. We must become advocates for knowledge, and yes, for expertise.
We need social science and the values of the university and higher education as we tackle the challenge of how we engage with the anxieties that have promoted populism, and both in Britain and around the West.
Social science has a great deal to offer contemporary society, either the problems that government face or indeed the challenges that many of us face within our organisations, places of work, where we live or where we educate our children.
It's very clear that you can feel the impact of social science on policy making day in, day out. It's impacting the public sphere in many different ways. You can see whether it's engaging with topics that are central to our age, whether it's to do with crime, whether it's to do with an ageing population, whether it's to do with well-being. Social science runs deep through all these themes. And I think it's also clear that social science is finding very natural partnerships.
Social science is not an alternative to science and technological advance. It's a crucial companion. And in my experience, often the best work in technology draws on insights from the social sciences. So the social sciences linking to people in other disciplines as the government sets out its big challenges in the industrial strategy, I think is a fantastic opportunity for social science.
Our culture is being redefined. Social science has an opportunity, if it does it imaginatively, to tackle old questions in brand new ways, but also to tackle questions that have never been pursued hitherto.